relax, and use headphones. Welcome back, dear traveler. Take a moment to find a comfortable place to rest. Let the weight of the day melt away as you close your eyes and take a deep, gentle breath in, and then slowly release it. Imagine the air you breathe out carrying away any tension, leaving your body lighter, calmer, and perfectly at ease. Now, picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast desert where golden sands stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The sun has dipped low, casting the world in hues of soft amber and rose. A cool breeze whispers across the dunes, carrying with it the ancient secrets of a land filled with wonder. As you begin to walk, your feet sink softly into the warm sand. Each step feels effortless, grounding you to the earth yet freeing you from all worries. In the distance, you see a temple glowing under the fading light, its towering obelisks reflecting the last golden rays of the sun. This is a place of stories, a place where history breathes. Tonight, I invite you to journey with me to the heart of ancient Egypt, where we will uncover the tale of one of history's most remarkable figures, Queen Hatshepsut. Her reign was bold and her legacy enduring, a testament to the power of resilience, vision, and strength. So, settle in, relax, and let the echoes of her story guide you into a state of calm and rest. Close your eyes and imagine yourself drifting back in time to ancient Egypt, around 1600 BC. The Nile's gentle flow reflects a kingdom at peace, ruled by one of the most remarkable women in history, Hatshepsut, affectionately known as Hatsu. Her story stands alongside that of Cleopatra, yet her reign shines with a unique brilliance. It was a time of peace. Unlike her father and brothers, who were fierce warriors, Hatsu chose a path free from the clamor of battle. No armies marched under her command. No conquests disturbed the tranquil rhythm of her rule. Instead, the arts blossomed under her guidance, and her kingdom reached across distant lands, not with swords, but with open hands. Ships set sail from Egyptian shores to explore new worlds, fostering friendship, sharing knowledge, and exchanging treasures. Hatshepsut's lineage was equally illustrious. She was the great-granddaughter of Ahmes and Nefertari Ahmes, and the granddaughter of Amenhotep I. Her father, Thutmose, or Tahutmose I, whose name means Thut's child, was a warrior king. Her mother, Ahmes, sometimes called Amensi, was likely of noble and possibly divine descent. Some legends even whispered that the god Amun was Hatshepsut's true father, gifting her a celestial claim to the throne. As a princess, Hatsu was born into royal privilege, her path to queenship undisputed even among her brothers. Life in her family was not without tragedy. Two of her siblings, a brother named Watmes and a sister called Kebno Frura, died in childhood. Perhaps these losses shaped Hatshepsut's compassionate outlook, which diverged so greatly from her father's warrior ways. Thutmose I, after all, left his mark far and wide, leading campaigns into Palestine, Syria, and Mesopotamia, where a commemorative stele near the Euphrates celebrated his victories. Yet Hatsu, alongside her brother, saw little value in holding these distant conquests, and chose instead to relinquish them, focusing on strengthening her homeland. Hatshepsut carried many names, each adding a layer of richness to her identity. She was Hatasu, Hatshepsutu, Knumt Amen, Trimtamun, and her throne name, Ra Maka or Matkara. Each title reflected her greatness, as different cultures and historians sought to encapsulate her legacy in their own ways. For us, she remains Hatshepsut, the queen who ruled with wisdom, grace, and an unwavering dedication to peace. The ancient Egyptians felt a deep reverence for their monarchs. Their awe was so profound that they rarely spoke of their ruler directly. Instead, they used descriptive phrases, often invoking the gods. Among these deities, the name of Ra was frequently, though not always, mentioned. Ra, the sun god, the father of gods and men, was central to Egyptian worship, with his chief temple located in Heliopolis. The sun's radiant disk was his emblem, and his image, a majestic figure with a hawk's head, embodied his celestial power. Hatshepsut shared a bond of deep affection with her father, Tahutmes I. He recognized her extraordinary abilities and took pride in his gifted daughter. Yet, many male historians have been reluctant to fully credit Hatshepsut's achievements, often attributing her accomplishments to those who came after her. However, there are exceptions, such as the enthusiastic Miss Edwards. With a poetic imagination, she envisions Hatshepsut as the mastermind behind certain monumental engineering projects others attribute to her successors. One portrait bust, familiar to many, adds a touch of humanity to the Queen's story. Copies of this masterpiece can be found in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and elsewhere. It portrays a woman with a smiling, dimpled face, her lips curving with an almost mischievous charm. While some scholars, like Mariette and Maspero, attribute the bust to other queens, Miss Edwards insists it is Hatshepsut's likeness. She describes the work as alive with a vivacious charm, its eyes seeming to laugh and its lips poised to speak. This depiction, if truly of Hatshepsut, suggests not only intelligence but a beauty and humor that further illuminate her character. Maspero offers another perspective, describing her in later life. Her features, he says, were refined, with a proud and energetic expression. The elongated oval of her face, hollowed cheeks, and deep-set eyes spoke of a life lived with purpose. Her thin, tightly closed lips hinted at determination and resolve. Statues and statuettes of her exist in various collections, including her Ka statue, a unique representation of her spiritual essence found in her temple. Interestingly, this statue portrays her in male attire, holding symbols of life and authority, a testament to the duality of her role as both a queen and a pharaoh. Hatshepsut's legacy has drawn comparisons to powerful women of other times and places. She's been called the Semiramis, the Catherine, and the Elizabeth of Egyptian history. Yet Hatshepsut's ambition was uniquely her own. She was bold, clever, and possessed a sharp intellect more often attributed to men in her era. She did not seek power for conquest or greed. Her focus was on nurturing and building her own kingdom. Unlike the rulers who spilled blood for glory, Hatshepsut's victories were peaceful and enduring. Among her proudest achievements was the importation of diverse trees, an act that symbolized her dedication to growth and prosperity. As one philosopher said, "He who can make 2 blades of grass grow where one grew before is the greatest benefactor of his race." In this way, Hatshepsut's vision of progress has earned her a rightful place as one of history's great rulers. Early historians, for instance, combined the stories of Hatshepsut and Nitocris into one figure, calling her Amen Nitocris. They claimed she was the last of the Memphite sovereigns, and that through marriage to Tahutmes, she united the crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt. They described her as both beautiful and courageous, a ruler who governed with splendor, expanded the temple at Karnak, and built the smallest of the pyramids. But as discoveries unfolded, diligent scholars separated these two remarkable women, granting each her rightful place in history. The mummy of Tahutmes I, Hatshepsut's father, was among those unearthed at Deir el-Bahri. His body revealed a man of great vigor and a commanding presence. Alongside his remains were relics, his coffin, bricks inscribed with his name, and other artifacts that hinted at his reign. Depictions of his mother, Sensenb, and Hatshepsut's mother, Queen Ams, adorned the walls of the temple at Deir el-Bahri. Although rendered in the formal, conventional style of Egyptian art, these images retained a sense of individuality. Today, you can see reproductions of these works in histories by Petrie and Mahaffy, along with ivory wands and scarabs belonging to Queen Ams. Queen Mutnefert, another wife of Tahutmes I and mother of Tahutmes II, also emerges in this vast family tree. She was described as the royal daughter, royal wife, likely the daughter of Amenhotep. A statue of her, carved from sandstone and found at Karnak, bears inscriptions from her son Tahutmes II. These inscriptions reveal his deep respect and affection for his mother, highlighting the reverence children held for their parents in ancient Egypt. Yet, beyond these glimpses, Mutnefert and Queen Ams remain shadowy figures in history, their legacies overshadowed by the vivid presence of Hatshepsut. In the latter years of his life, Tahutmes I shared his power with Hatshepsut, associating her with him in imperial matters. It is likely that her influence extended even earlier, as she joined him in state policies and the pleasures of daily life. Their bond was strong, a testament to his appreciation of her remarkable abilities, a connection that still resonates after the passage of centuries. Hatshepsut's two half-brothers, Tahutmes II and Tahutmes III, also played roles in this dynastic drama. Tahutmes III, described as the son of Tahutmes II, became a ruler of notable skill. Yet neither half-brother held the same place in their father's regard as Hatshepsut. Being much younger, they lacked the companionship and counsel she provided. A limestone statue of Queen Mutnefert, the mother of Tahutmes II, discovered in Thebes in 1886 and now at Gizeh, reflects the beauty of that time. Seated in a long white robe, her flesh painted a soft yellow, the statue captures her sweetness and grace, illuminated by large, expressive eyes. Even today, one can see similar features in the faces of locals near Thebes. By contrast, the mother of Tahutmes III, Lady Aist, was a royal mother but not a royal wife. Following Egyptian tradition, Hatshepsut married her younger half-brother, Tahutmes II, shortly before their father's death. Though they shared the throne, it's clear that Hatshepsut was the dominant force. At the time of their union, she was likely 24 and he was 17. This arrangement is echoed in other traditions, such as one described by Captain A. St. H. Gibbons, who observed a custom in Nalolo where the eldest surviving sister of a ruling king wielded unparalleled authority. She advised on state matters, held power over life and death in her district and even controlled the choice of her husband. In both cases, the influence of these remarkable women underscores their enduring legacy. The statue of Tahutmes II at Gizeh. It stands as a quiet relic of a ruler, bearing some resemblance to the ancient king Chafre. He is depicted not as a towering figure, but as a man of gentle presence. His fine, almost wistful eyes and soft expression suggest a likeness to his mother. Yet, his story intertwines with Hatshepsut's in ways that hint at tension. The bond between Tahutmes II and Hatshepsut was far from harmonious. After his death, a passing that some early, though likely unfair, historians speculated she had a hand in, Hatshepsut took steps to erase his legacy. His name was chiseled away from many monuments, replaced by those of her father or her own, leaving scholars of later centuries puzzled by the missing inscriptions. Legends even whisper that in his youth, Tahutmes II was kept far from the seat of power, relegated to Buto while Hatshepsut ruled. Like Queen Elizabeth of England in her time, Hatshepsut, it seems, would have preferred to govern without a consort at all. Now let's take a little detour and go into the changing fashions of Hatshepsut's era. For centuries, Egyptian dress had remained largely unchanged, but now subtle alterations began to appear. Among the highest ranks of women, clothing became more intricate. They wore petticoats or gowns, cinched at the waist with colorful sashes or secured with straps over one shoulder. A loose linen robe, tied beneath the chest, would drape over these garments, often leaving the right arm exposed during ceremonies. Some garments, like the long tunic known as kalasiris, were suspended by straps or bracers, while others included short skirts paired with decorative upper garments. These upper layers, often left open, revealed the body beneath, a style that could easily be removed during religious rituals or moments of labor. Jewelry and hairstyles, too, reflected a new aesthetic. Beads used in decorating mummies evolved in pattern and glazing techniques. Syrian captives and other foreign influences introduced fresh ideals of beauty, smaller, more delicate features and graceful figures. Women adorned their hair with intricate braids and plaits, sometimes fringed or woven into elaborate designs. During the Middle Empire, hair often hung loose or was bound with fillets, while servants opted for simpler styles with loops or plaits tied at the back of the head. Their clothing was practical, a plain garment with short sleeves which could be adjusted as they worked. Men, during the same period, embraced distinct trends. From the 4th to the 18th dynasty, their attire underwent little change. However, during Hatshepsut's reign, a new style emerged. Men wore short skirts called shendo around their hips. Later, these skirts evolved, sometimes narrow and tailored, other times wide and flowing, or even intricately folded. At certain times, the chest was covered, while the apron, now mostly associated with women, was once an exclusively male garment. In the vibrant world of ancient Egyptian fashion, garments reflected both class and tradition, yet trends sometimes trickled down from the elite to the common folk. Among the nobles and priests, a distinctive look prevailed during sacred rituals, a panther skin draped elegantly over one shoulder. The small head and forepaws of the animal hung gracefully, while the hindpaws were adorned with long ribbons. Perhaps these ribbons became a gentle prop in conversation, a small unspoken gesture that added rhythm to the exchanges. Soldiers and merchants dressed in crisp white garments trimmed with colorful fringes, while policemen carried sturdy staves projecting a sense of order. Priests, ever dignified, roamed the temples in flowing white robes, their attire accented by aprons and jeweled collars that gleamed in the sunlight. Women's attire evolved over time, with tunics and short petticoats in shades of white, red, yellow, and sometimes green, a color that gained popularity in the Middle Empire. Higher-ranking women often secured their petticoats with vibrant sashes at the waist. Some garments featured a single sleeve for the left arm, while cloaks of the 19th and 20th dynasties draped gracefully over the shoulders, occasionally incorporating short sleeves. By the end of the 20th dynasty, heavier undergarments emerged, signaling a shift toward more elaborate clothing. The bare feet of earlier times were eventually covered by sandals, a step into a more refined era. As civilization advanced, so too did fashion, with increasing layers and adornments. Early Egyptians placed great emphasis on their appearance, often prioritizing cosmetics over clothing. Faces were painted and rouged, limbs oiled to a sheen for both the living and the deceased. Two colors dominated their palettes: green, drawn in a line beneath the eyes under the Old Empire, and black, used to accentuate brows and lids, creating a striking, luminous gaze. Eyelids were dyed with mestum, while nails were tinted red with henna. To maintain this beauty, an array of tools was essential. Round mirrors made of burnished copper with handles carved from wood or ivory, kohl pots for the eyes, and carefully crafted jewelry. Both men and women adorned themselves with necklaces and bracelets, the latter often worn on the upper arms or wrists. Women, however, reserved anklets for themselves, adding a subtle jingle to their movements. Earrings were simple golden loops, and rings, especially those worn on the third finger or thumb, were a common accessory. The daily life of a queen remains an outline, pieced together from pictures and inscriptions. The queen begins her day with a simple meal before moving to the throne room. Here, she listens to reports and petitions, surrounded by scribes diligently recording her every word. These scribes, more pervasive than modern reporters, captured every moment, praising Her Majesty's wisdom, kindness, and grace. As the sun climbed higher, before the day grew too warm, the queen might stroll through her gardens or the palace colonnades, pausing to admire the intricate blooms. Or perhaps she would ride out, taking in the fresh air while surveying the grand public works underway, her vision for the kingdom slowly coming to life. Picture a time when neither horses nor camels graced the monuments of early Egypt. Instead, the nobles and royals traveled in chariots or chairs carried by bands of slaves, while the humble mule bore the burdens of daily life. A royal chariot was a spectacle of elegance, adorned with a burnished shield rising above the back. This shield, intricately carved and lined with silk, caught the sunlight as it moved. The chariots rolled smoothly on two wheels, drawn by a pair of horses. Their heads, held high by bridles secured to a front hook, were adorned with plumes that danced in the breeze. The harnesses, shimmering with gold, silver, and brass, bore the royal insignia. For the queen, a seat might be provided, though it was more common for riders to stand. One writer describes the queen riding upon a dais drawn at great speed by 6 horses abreast, appearing like a goddess in flight. As the day warmed, Hatshepsut might pause for the midday meal, an important tradition in Egypt. Afterward came a rest during the hottest hours, when the sun shone most fiercely. In the evening, the palace would come alive with receptions for ambassadors and dignitaries, followed by moments of pleasure and relaxation. A grand hall echoing with the soft melodies of musicians, while acrobats, jugglers, and dancers performed with grace and skill. For a guest of particular favor, the queen herself might place a golden chain around their neck, a gesture of honor that would remain a cherished memory. Imagine now the grandeur of the throne room, a magnificent space of immense proportions. The floor, polished to a mirror-like finish, was adorned with the skins of beasts, their patterns adding a wild beauty. Enormous statues of the gods, including Osiris and Isis, lined the sides of the hall, nestled between towering granite columns with lotus-shaped capitals. These columns stood like a forest of stone trees, sheltering the ivory throne, which rested upon a raised platform. Steps of precious marble, flanked by carved sphinxes and crouching animals, led to the throne, while statues of justice and truth stood watch nearby. Above, a silk canopy embroidered with stars and constellations shimmered in the light, held aloft by slender white and gold columns. Bands of richly attired soldiers and officers attended the queen, who, on solemn occasions, wore the double crown of Egypt. This iconic headdress was a graceful conical bonnet, its white silk ending in a pomegranate-shaped knob, symbolizing Upper Egypt. Around it, a band of gold lined with red silk represented Lower Egypt, complemented by vulture wings and the raised asp. Her garments, woven from the finest linen, were paired with a silk robe of white and green, cinched with a girdle adorned with diamonds and precious stones. These surroundings create an image of Hatshepsut in her full splendor, a queen whose elegance and authority radiated across the ages. Elsewhere, images of Egyptian rulers bring this era to life. A picture from Ermin shows King Tutankhamun giving an audience to the governor of Ethiopia. He wears his war helmet and holds a whip and scepter, symbols of his authority, while the governor bears a fan and scepter as tokens of rank. Hatshepsut, though equally capable of wielding the scepter and whip with regal grace, had little use for the war helmet. Her reign, shaped by the conquests of her father, was a time of peace. Some say this neglect of warfare allowed unrest to grow, paving the way for the military campaigns of her successor, Tahutmes III. Yet the blessings of peace, fostered by Hatshepsut's wisdom, remain an undeniable triumph of her rule. Among the many achievements of her reign, the coronation of Hatshepsut, the construction of her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahri, and the celebrated expedition to Punt stand out as events of unparalleled significance. Each is a story in its own right, deserving of far more than a single chapter to capture their full glory. As we walk further through the vast and sacred halls of the temple at Karnak, we can find inscriptions, one of which stands as a testament to the bond between Tahutmes I and his beloved daughter. It reads like a royal blessing spoken to the god Amun. I bestow the black land and the red land upon my daughter, the queen of Lower and Upper Egypt, Ma-Ka-Ra, living eternally. Thou hast transmitted the world into her power. Thou hast chosen her as king. Embraced her divine origin, believing herself to be the daughter of Amun, who had assumed her father's form. Her name, originally Hatshepsut, meaning the first among the favorite women, was transformed by the queen into Hatshepsut, the first among the great and honorable nobles of the kingdom. This subtle change reflected the grandeur she felt was more fitting for her elevated role. The 18th dynasty is remembered as the Golden Age of Egypt, a time of unmatched power, remarkable rulers, and awe-inspiring achievements in architecture and literature. In this era, Hatshepsut rose to prominence. Before his death, Tahutmese I arranged the marriage of his two children, the 24-year-old Hatshepsut and her 17-year-old half-brother Tahutmese II. Yet, Hatshepsut's royal lineage on her mother's side, her father's devotion, her seniority in age, and her superior talents placed her at the forefront of power. When Tahutmese I passed, the bond between father and daughter was broken, but Hatshepsut's dominant presence on the throne only grew. With her commanding will and extraordinary vision, she often adopted male attire, wearing the ceremonial regalia of a king. She referred to herself with titles such as King Horus abounding in divine gifts, Mistress of diadems, rich in years, and Daughter of the Sun, Consort of Amun, dwelling in his breast. She embodied both male and female aspects, much like the Sphinx, which sometimes bore a male, sometimes a female head. Hatshepsut's inscriptions celebrated her divine and royal status. One, referring to her as Cheremtamun, proclaims, "He has created her in order to exalt his splendor. She who creates beings like the god Shefra, she whose diadems shine like those of the god of the horizon." With these declarations, she established herself as a ruler who transcended conventional boundaries, weaving together strength, divinity, and wisdom. The world of ancient Egypt, so entwined with the thoughts of life, death, and the divine, often reflected both the tangible and the infinite. While some viewed the symbols and idols before them as the literal embodiments of gods, others, perhaps like Hatshepsut herself, looked beyond the material, seeking a connection to something greater. Unlike earlier kings, Hatshepsut did not immediately set about constructing a pyramid for her burial. Instead, she focused on the living, on the administration of her kingdom, and on honoring her father. Among her first grand projects was an obelisk dedicated to her father, a monument inscribed with his virtues and powers. She also commissioned temples to glorify the gods, weaving her legacy into the spiritual and physical fabric of Egypt. In the 9th year of her reign, Hatshepsut undertook one of her most celebrated endeavors, the expedition to Punt. This distant and mysterious land, believed to lie along the eastern shores of the Red Sea, was known to the Egyptians as a place of abundance. Descriptions from the time paint a picture of Punt as a land of valleys and hills, rich in ebony, balsam, precious stones, and exotic animals such as leopards and dog-headed apes. Often compared to the fabled Ophir, it may have been the Somali coast, or land visible from Arabia, separated by the vast Red Sea. But this was no ordinary expedition. It was peaceful, unique for its time, unfolding nearly 1,600 years before the Christian era. Yet, even a voyage of peace required meticulous preparation, and years must have passed between the dream of Punt and its realization. Ships were constructed, and careful plans were made to ensure the safety of the travelers should they face unexpected dangers. An inscription accompanying the depiction of Hatshepsut's fleet at Deir el-Bahari reads, "Departure of the squadron of the Lord of the Two Worlds, traversing the Great Sea on the good way to the land of the gods, in obedience to the will of the King of the gods, Amun of Thebes. He commanded that there should be brought to him the marvelous products of the land of Punt, for he loveth the Queen Hatshepsut above all other kings that have ruled this land." To shorten the journey, some attribute the construction of a canal connecting the Nile to the Red Sea to Hatshepsut, a feat later credited to Seti I. Miss Edwards argues that this engineering marvel belongs to Hatshepsut, eliminating the need for the long and arduous voyage around the western coast of Africa and the Cape of Good Hope. The fleet itself consisted of 5 grand ships, impressive for their time. These vessels, 70 feet in length, featured high sterns and prows that rose elegantly above the water. Though there were no cabins, raised platforms with balustrades at either end provided shelter for the officers. A single mast supported their wide, billowing sails, while rowers manned seats along the open hull. The design was simple yet stately, each vessel embodying a balance of strength and grace. Other ships of this era, or slightly later, carried intricate decorations. Galleys with 30 oars often included shrines and stern ornaments shaped like animals. Royal vessels were adorned with brightly painted cabins, lotus motifs, and ornate sails made from richly colored cloth. One such royal ship, belonging to Thutmose III, Hatshepsut's successor, was called Star of the Two Countries. Its oars were carved to resemble bouquets of flowers, crowned by the head of the king, a testament to the artistry and grandeur of ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. As Hatshepsut's fleet embarked on its journey, the waters of the Red Sea carried not just the hopes of a queen, but the legacy of a civilization determined to reach beyond the horizon, to a land where the divine and the earthly intertwined. Formidable vessels and armed mariners clad in brass helmets. That is what the grand warships of ancient Egypt most likely looked like in their prime. These ships boasted 4 sturdy masts, each crowned with a large castle filled with bowmen wielding steel-tipped arrows. On the prow stood a fortress where soldiers carried long spears and oval shields, their surfaces decorated with hieroglyphics in vibrant, dazzling colors. The rowers, powerful Ethiopians clad in steel cuirasses, worked below, their movements synchronized to propel the ship forward. Above them, captains in resplendent, multicolored armor stood tall, commanding their 1,000 soldiers and 300 rowers. The prow was a masterpiece, adorned with a lion's head and the mighty wings of a feathered sun globe, the emblem of Egypt, gleaming gold against the light, proclaiming the ship's allegiance to the mistress of the world. Yet Queen Hatshepsut's fleet was bound for a different purpose, a peaceful journey across the seas, seeking friendship and prosperity. Experienced seamen guided the ships, while a modest number of soldiers and ambassadors accompanied them. Some accounts even suggest that ladies joined the expedition, carrying with them gifts to offer the people of the distant land of Punt. This modest fleet consisted of no more than 210 men, a stark contrast to the grand warships of legend. When the fleet reached Punt, they were met with warmth and hospitality. The inhabitants of this land lived in quaint, round huts elevated on stages, each reached by a ladder and shaded beneath towering palms. On the walls of the temple at Deir el-Bahari, an image captures this meeting. The prince of Punt, Parihu, and his wife Ati, whose robust figure was likely a mark of beauty in her culture, stand before the Egyptians. Ati, seated upon a donkey, is followed by their 2 sons and a young daughter, who shows early signs of inheriting her mother's rounded form. The fleet returned to Egypt laden with treasures. Gold, spices, ivory, and incense-bearing trees, 31 in total, were among the gifts brought back. These precious goods were destined for the temples and the glory of the gods. The success of the voyage was celebrated with a grand festival at the temple. Hatshepsut, resplendent in royal attire, presided over the ceremony. A helmet crowned her head, while a spotted leopard skin draped over her shoulders. Her very presence was described poetically as being perfumed like fresh dew. As the priestess of Amun, she offered incense in 2 bowls and personally weighed gold before the sacred boat of Amun-Ra. This sacred vessel, adorned with rams' heads at each end, was carried by high priests clad in leopard skins. Incense-bearing trees were transported in tubs, and gold weights shaped like reclining oxen added to the splendor of the scene. The temple echoed with the sound of trumpets and drums as the triumphant procession made its way through avenues of sphinxes, past obelisks, and up the magnificent terraces of the great temple. Green boughs waved in celebration, and the crowd swelled with joyous shouts. Finally, the procession ascended to the topmost terrace, where Queen Hatshepsut herself stood, radiant and commanding, to welcome the voyagers into the presence of Hathor, the beautiful, the Lady of the Western Mountain, the goddess regent of the land of Punt. Though time and the hand of Ramesses II later sought to erase parts of this story, replacing Hatshepsut's inscriptions with his own, the echoes of this peaceful voyage and its triumph endure, etched into the walls of history and whispered through the sands of Egypt. During her reign, Hatshepsut sought the expertise of one of Egypt's most skilled architects, Senmut, whose brilliance would leave a lasting mark on her legacy. He is believed to have designed the exquisite temple of Deir el-Bahri, a masterpiece of ancient architecture. Senmut's statue, now housed in the Berlin Museum, hints at his remarkable story. Of humble origins, he rose to become a key figure in the Queen's court, a journey as surprising as it was extraordinary. Senmut's relationship with Hatshepsut has long intrigued historians. Some speculate that he held a place in her heart that rivaled or even surpassed that of her husband, though no evidence confirms this. What we do know is that he was a man of immense talent, both intelligent and resourceful. In his own words, inscribed in the Berlin Museum, he declared that Hatshepsut made him great in both countries and elevated him to chief of the chiefs throughout Egypt. Together, they created structures of unparalleled beauty and innovation, monuments that still inspire awe today. Despite his lowly birth, Senmut's achievements cemented his place in history. Hatshepsut herself honored him with a stone memorial, a portrait in black granite, showing him in a pose of peaceful repose. On his shoulder, a poignant inscription read, "There was not found in writing his ancestors." Even in his humility, Senmut's legacy shone brightly, a testament to the Queen's appreciation of his contributions. In another inscription, he referred to Hatshepsut as the Lord of the country, the King of Makkara, underscoring the mutual respect and admiration between them. Alongside Senmut, another figure played a significant role in Hatshepsut's reign, Ahmes. A trusted servant of her father, Ahmes earned the Queen's favor as well. His tomb, discovered by Brugsch, carries an inscription that reflects his deep connection to the royal family. It reads, "I was during my existence in the favor of the king and was rewarded by his holiness, and a divine woman gave me further reward, the defunct great queen Makkara, because I brought up her daughter, the great queen's daughter, the defunct Nofrerura." Ahmes had been entrusted with raising Hatshepsut's daughter, Neferura, a role that may have endeared him to the queen, whose affections were not often easily won. Hatshepsut had two daughters. The elder, Neferura, was known as the mistress of both lands. Tragically, she passed away early in the reign of Tahutmes III. The younger daughter, Hatasumeri, also called Meritra, was born around 1512 BC and became the heir to her mother's throne. To strengthen the royal lineage, Meritra was married to Tahutmes III. The lineage of Tahutmes III has been a subject of debate among historians. He was once thought to be the youngest son of Tahutmes I, but newer evidence suggests he may have been the son of Tahutmes II and a concubine. This would make him either an uncle or a half-brother to Meritra, depending on the interpretation. Their marriage, a union of royal necessity, likely took place during their childhood, even before the death of Tahutmes II. This is supported by the presence of both Tahutmes II and Tahutmes III's cartouches on shared monuments, suggesting a period of joint rule, however symbolic, during their youth. Amid these political and familial intricacies, figures like Renekeb, a tutor to the young queen, played essential roles in shaping the lives of these royal children. These early alliances and unions ensured the stability of the throne, building a web of relationships and power that defined the era of Hatshepsut's reign. Tahutmes II, born around 1533 BC, lived a brief life, passing away at just 30 years old in 1503 BC. Some historians argue that Hatshepsut seized the power that rightfully belonged to Tahutmes III, her young half-brother or nephew. However, Miss Edwards, ever a defender of Hatshepsut, interprets this differently. She suggests the queen may have acted as a guardian, protecting his interests during his youth. Some find it reasonable that a capable and ambitious woman, still in her prime, would not immediately relinquish the reins of power to a boy inexperienced in governance. After all, Hatshepsut's claim to the throne was stronger, both legally and by her father's own design. Yet, despite any care she may have shown, Tahutmes III appeared to harbor deep resentment toward his predecessor. Whether it stemmed from feeling overshadowed, his loyalty to others in the royal lineage, or some personal grievance, his actions spoke volumes. Upon ascending to power, he embarked on a campaign to erase Hatshepsut's memory. Her name was chiseled from monuments, replaced by his or his brother's wherever possible, as though he sought to remove her from the annals of history entirely. While these rivalries played out, the grandeur of Thebes continued to grow. Tahutmes I had set the stage with two obelisks at Karnak, each 70 feet high, and both his son and daughter continued the work of expanding this magnificent temple. Architectural projects in ancient Egypt were rarely the vision of a single monarch. They evolved like coral reefs, with each ruler adding to the splendor over generations. Hatshepsut, however, far surpassed her predecessors with her own obelisks. Towering at 108 or 109 feet, they were the tallest in Egypt at the time, flawless blocks of red granite quarried from the south. Completed in the 16th year of her reign, her great obelisk was a triumph of engineering and artistry. Senmet recorded the quarrying process, which took 19 months, a remarkably swift timeline given its scale and intricacy. One face of the obelisk bore golden inscriptions, said to have been weighed out by Hatshepsut's own hand. The center was inlaid with electrum, a blend of silver and gold, and the carvings honored both herself and her father, Amen of Thebes. The inscription read, Amen Konum Hatasu, the golden Horus, lord of the two lands, hath dedicated to her father, Amen of Thebes, 2 obelisks of maquette stone, hewn from the quarries of the south. Their summits were sheathed with pure gold, taken from the chiefs of all nations. It continued, His Majesty gave these 2 gilded obelisks to her father, Amen, that her name should live forever in his temple. When Ra arises betwixt them as he journeys upward from the heavenly horizon, they flood the 2 Egypts with the glory of their brightness. Rossellini, an expert on Egyptian artistry, remarked on the exquisite craftsmanship of the obelisks, noting that every figure seems rather to have been impressed with a seal than graven with a chisel. One inscription at the base dedicated the monument to Tahutmese I, further binding her legacy to his. Dr. Neville, the famed explorer, later uncovered the burial chamber of Tahutmese I in 1893. Alongside it, he found a grand altar erected by Hatshepsut, another tribute to the man whose influence had shaped her reign. Even centuries later, her obelisks and temples remain, standing as enduring symbols of her power, her vision, and her indelible mark on history. Deep within the rock-cut temple of Speos Artemidos, nestled in the southern reaches of Beni Hassan, an inscription tells of Hatshepsut's efforts to restore the sacred traditions of Egypt after the devastation wrought by the Hyksos. In her own words, the queen declared, "The abode of the mistress of chess was fallen in ruin. The earth had covered her beautiful sanctuary, and children played over her temple. I cleared and rebuilt it anew. I restored that which was in ruins and completed that which was left unfinished. For there had been Amu in the midst of the delta and in Hanar, and the foreign hordes of their number had destroyed the ancient works. They reigned ignorant of the god Ra." Among the many projects Hatshepsut undertook, the temple of Deir el-Bahari, known in Arabic as Deira el-Bahari, stands as her crowning achievement. Even in ruins, this architectural wonder remains a testament to her vision and ambition. Monsieur Brun, a talented French architect, meticulously reconstructed its plan, giving us a glimpse into its original grandeur. The temple's location, a natural amphitheater of golden brown rock rising from the green plains near the Nile, would have been a perfect stage for the gods themselves. The structure ascended terrace by terrace from the water's edge, its uppermost levels merging with the steep cliffs that house the Holy of Holies, the temple's inner sanctum carved into the rock. An avenue of sphinxes, majestic and serene, stretched from the riverbank to the temple's base. Each terrace was supported by a blend of earthworks and stone, guarded by the marble hawk-headed statues crowned with the uraeus, the symbol of divine authority. Graceful columns with polygonal shapes and capitals, adorned with the face of Hathor, stood in stately lines, their colors and designs preserving their beauty even into the Ptolemaic era. This temple, unique among Egypt's architectural wonders, was adorned with exquisite stonework and vibrant decorations. Its walls bore scenes that proclaim the queen's divine origin. In one chamber, Hatshepsut is depicted nursing from the sacred cow, an incarnation of Hathor, symbolizing her connection to the goddess and her celestial heritage. As the years passed, Hatshepsut's cartouche, her royal insignia, began appearing alongside that of Tahutmese III, marking the transition to his reign. Her extraordinary career, so full of triumph and grandeur, came to an enigmatic end. Whether she stepped aside willingly, met with treachery, or succumbed to natural causes remains a mystery. Her remains, unlike those of many illustrious members of her family, were not among the discoveries made by archaeologists. Although her sepulchre was located in 1841 by Mr. Rind, it was subsequently lost again, a testament to the elusiveness of her final resting place. Throughout history, the name and memory of Hatshepsut faced erasure, her successor chiseling away her cartouche from countless monuments. Yet her presence endures, rediscovered and revered by modern travelers and scholars. Her cartouche, simple yet profound, features 3 hieroglyphic symbols: a circle with a central dot representing Ra, the supreme sun god, a seated figure of the goddess of truth, justice, and law, and the Ka symbolized by uplifted arms, signifying life itself. Together, these elements tell a story of divinity, power, and eternal light. Though time and deliberate efforts have sought to erase her memory, many fragments of Hatshepsut's legacy endure, whispering stories of her brilliance. The ruins of her great temple at Deir el-Bahri stand defiantly against the sands of time, as do her towering obelisks, one of which remains proudly upright. Statues and statuettes bearing her likeness continue to inspire awe, and sun-dried bricks stamped with her cartouche and that of her father can still be found, some preserved in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Among the treasures linked to her reign is a wooden and ivory cabinet, her royal standard, and a turquoise and gold signet ring, now held by an English collector. But perhaps most fascinating of all are the remnants of her throne chair, housed in the British Museum. Crafted from a dark wood not native to Egypt, likely brought from the distant land of Punt, the chair is adorned with delicate decorations. Its legs feature golden basilisks and the carved hoof of an animal, while hieroglyphics in gold and silver embellish the remaining pieces. On one fragment, her royal cartouche, bearing the name Hatshepsut, confirms its rightful owner and ties this regal artifact to the queen's remarkable story. Hatshepsut's life ended in mystery. The details of her passing, whether cloaked in darkness or silence, remain unknown. Yet her legacy, once obscured and nearly forgotten, has been illuminated through the efforts of historians and explorers, piecing together her story from the fragments left behind. And so, dear traveler, as the tale of Queen Hatshepsut gently fades into the quiet, you are left standing on the warm sands once more. The temple now glows softly under a canopy of stars, its obelisks reaching toward the heavens, bathed in the silvery light of the moon. The air is still, the desert calm, and you feel a deep peace settle within you, as timeless as the sands themselves. As you prepare to drift into sleep, carry with you the enduring spirit of Hatshepsut, her strength, her vision, and her defiance of the impossible. Close your eyes and let yourself dream of the golden deserts, the Nile's gentle flow, and the legacy of a queen who once ruled with wisdom and grace. Until next time, let these images guide you into a deep and restful slumber where peace and calm await. Good night.